More than 1 ton of toxic waste is produced each year for every man, woman, and child in America. In 1989, American Industries reported 74,000 episodes in which toxic chemicals were either routinely or accidentally released into the environment. Government figures, which tend to be conservative, estimate that 2,000 Americans die each year from cancer attributed to polluted air. Our nightmare is just beginning.
In other local news, a group of protesters gathered today outside the Davis chemical plant. They're there to voice opposition to the plant's continued operation, which they claim is in violation of federal standards for clean air and water. Les Manley reports.
These protesters have been here all day, their vigil beginning before sunrise. They're angered by the apparent disregard by Armin Davis and his local plant managers for EPA regulations and, in fact, for the quality of life here in Brazoria County.
We're out here because we want this madness to stop. This company has been damaging the health of our county for too long now.
We've had enough two-headed lizards and stinking dead fish. And, well, everybody knows about the Carter baby.
If the government can't do something about this, we'll have to take it into our own hands.
Some obviously upset and determined local residents. This is Les Manley, KRAP First News reporting.
Of course, protesters failed to gain an audience with Mr. Davis himself. Armand Davis is suffering from a chronic heart ailment, and a spokesman for the company.
Once again, the citizens of Sandy Point have turned out in force to voice their opposition to the continued operation of the Davis chemical plant. EPA officials, led by Dr. Dave Reskin, have arrived to begin examining the plant's procedures regarding waste products and to test the water of this small lake on the plant grounds. No one can say for sure what the outcome of the investigation will be, but at this point, it doesn't look good for Armin Davis. Les Manley reporting live from the Davis chemical plant.
Man, you pigs can't hold me. You ain't got nothing on me. That guy started the whole thing. Get your hands on me, you stinking pig. I ain't done nothing wrong, man. That old dude started it all.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that a 62-year-old man started a fight with you, then he gave you his wallet? Come on, Zetka. My 5-year-old wouldn't buy that line.
I told you. He agreed to meet me last night, and he didn't show up. It's not like him. He's very reliable.
Okay, I know what you mean, Miss Bishop. We can't go run around after every guy that stands up a date. We'll be running around night and day.
You don't know him. We've been dating for 3 years. I'm talking about a guy who's never been late for an appointment. He'd never taken a sick day off from work. He arranges his sandwich bread so the halves match perfectly.
All right, so the guy's pretty rigid. Maybe he wandered off and knocked his head somewhere.
When we left Costas' gym last night, he told me he was going to go straight home and relax. Now, I know him well enough to know that he didn't just go wandering off forgetting about our plans.
Sure he wouldn't. Okay, I got all the information here. If he doesn't show up in a couple of days, I'll ask around. And I'm telling you, he'll show up.
A couple of days? You've got to be joking. He could be in trouble or hurt.
Well, sweetheart, you know how those muscle-bound types are. Maybe he took off with some other broad and forgot to mention it to you. Or maybe he ran off with Mr. Right, and they're still playing hide the salami.
You jerk.
I'm gonna talk to someone about your attitude.
Told you couldn't hold me. I'm out of here, man. Don't do it, blood space. I'll slice open like a melon.
Thanks for all your help, officer. If anything happens to Bobby while you're sitting here on your dead ass, I'll see to it that the boys at the gym hear about your attitude toward their kind.
Well, I guess she's man enough for him, huh?
Dr. Reskin, what can you tell us about your investigation so far?
Well, the preliminary reports indicate that this particular body of water has been contaminated with over 200 chemical agents that can be considered life-threatening and/or life-altering. Now, clearly, this is a violation.
Excuse me, you said life-altering. Exactly what does that mean?
Well, that means that when these chemicals are introduced to an organism, the result is not necessarily death, but that the cell structure can become altered, causing a mutation and possible deformity.
You mean like that two-headed lizard we found?
Exactly. In fact, one of our lab technicians is claimed to have witnessed continued cell activity in an organism that had been deceased several days before we'd collected it.
Cell activity?
Well, we have no confirmation on that observation, so I'd like not to comment on it at this time.
What specifically can you tell our viewing audience to look for signs of exposure?
Well, nothing specific, although I will say that we have no way of determining the short or long-term consequences of exposure to these chemicals might be, due to the infinite number of combinations and unknown quantities involved. Some laboratory animals had been rendered quite, well, suffice to say the results were quite unpleasant. And we can only assume the same thing for humans.
That's about all the time we have. Thank you for your comments, Dr. Reskin. That's it, Alex. Let's go.
Look at this carrot. We used to grow such beautiful carrots. Now we get this. My whole patch will turn into a vegetable garden of horrors. If these vegetables could only speak, they'd be crying out to us to help them. Doggone it.
The people of this county are on the verge of storming the Davis chemical plant and taking it over by force if the EPA does not shut it down immediately. Dr. David Reskin of the EPA is to announce his findings at this hour. We go live to our Les Manley at the courthouse.
Don, there's much confusion about the fate of David Reskin, who has not yet shown for the press conference which was scheduled for this moment. It's been rumored that he was about to bring the full weight of the law down on Armand Davis and on the Davis firm. Now, we've been talking to Reskin throughout his investigation, and from that it appears clear there were numerous violations of federal law by both Davis and by the company. However, we can only speculate since David Reskin cannot be located. This is Les Manley reporting live from the county courthouse. Due to the disappearance of Dr. David Reskin, the EPA's chief investigator, this plant continues to operate. Local residents are unsure how to interpret the latest turn of events, but the general feeling is that Armand Davis himself is responsible for both the disappearance of Dr. Reskin and his files on the investigation. Some hardliners have announced plans to launch guerrilla attacks on the plant itself if Davis does not voluntarily shut it down today. This is Les Manley reporting. And those closest to him, local officials have decided to shut the Davis chemical plant down, pending a further inquiry. A federal-level investigator has now been appointed to examine the circumstances of these deaths and the disappearance of the EPA's chief investigator, Dr. David Reskin. Just this morning, Dr. Reskin's files were discovered inside the locker of Bobby Clifton, one of the victims of last week's ritual-like murders. Susan Bishop, Clifton's fiancée, is now being held for questioning, and it is believed she is the only surviving member of a satanic cult headed by Davis himself. There is speculation that Clifton and the others were followers of Davis, and that Dr.